Welcome to Inspired Living with Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Every Wednesday, Marc, along with his special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Marc will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Marc is a tested, certified, and professional spiritual medium, metaphysical teacher, healer, and spiritual advisor with a spiritual practice based in Seattle, Washington. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be on this beautiful, amazing, transformative planet of ours. This is Inspired Living, and I like to say you are both the inspiration and the inspired, so let's embrace this journey together. Let's inspire others, and let's make every moment count before we expire. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, thrilled to guide you on what I like to call another soul adventure filled with inspiration and discovery. And together we'll uncover the unique diamonds within each of us and reveal the hidden gems waiting to shine in our lives and the world. Whether you're at home, on the road, or anywhere life takes you, this show is crafted to uplift your spirit and empower your dreams. Here at Inspired Living, we're all about building a supportive community where we can celebrate every victory, big or small. Each episode features incredible guests who have faced challenges, pursued their passions, and made a positive impact in their fields and our beautiful world. Expect engaging discussions like the one we're going to have today, perspectives, thought-provoking questions, and most importantly, actionable steps to transform and manifest inspiration into your own personal reality. Of course, we wouldn't be doing the show without our global listeners from around the planet, so I always say just a huge thank you and shout out to all of the inspired listeners out there in the community. Your support through listening, downloading, subscribing, leaving reviews has made Inspired Living not just a top choice now for inspiration, but also spirituality and just recently, introspection. So we're truly humbled and grateful for each of you and listening to our episodes either live as we're currently or in the future, wherever you get your favorite podcast shows from. If you haven't subscribed, liked, or followed us yet, there is still time. Connect with us over on our Facebook page, Inspired Living. You can also follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, formerly known as Twitter, at Inspired For Us. Or you can check out our YouTube channel, Inspired Living, and we're also now streaming through Audible, through Alexa, and again, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. So let's get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and motivated because, as I always like to say, the best is always yet to come. So let's go prospecting together through body, mind, and spirit. And today is a very interesting show. It is the last show of the year for us. This is going to conclude 10 seasons of Inspired Living. And as we move into 2026, which is the year of the one in numerology, 2025 is also known as the year of the nine, which means completion. So as we're halfway through our, what I've been coining and calling the roaring 20s of transformation and ascension, we're halfway through that point, and we're going to have a pretty interesting 2026. And today we're going to be talking about intelligent futures. We're going to be talking about simple acronyms AI, SI, ML, and how that's going to be intertwined within humanity. This is something that maybe you have recently heard about. It's been in the mainstream news. Many articles, many published peer-reviewed scientific studies, concepts being built. And what's interesting about the intelligent futures is this, what we call artificial intelligence, has been around since the late 1950s when they actually started working on different concepts of what we would now today know as the computer, which then also gave rise to the internet, which then gave rise to Wi-Fi. And it's no surprise that we are moving into a period where AI is starting to learn. And that's what ML stands for, machine learning. So today we're going to explore the evolving relationship between AI, what's also now being coined as superintelligent or SI, machine learning and humanity, and examining some of those impacts, some of those ethical considerations, and of course, future predictions of what I see coming as a forecast that I've been long talking about. I've been, very interested in the concept, and I think this would go back to the movies that I had watched growing up as a young man. And, the first one that came to my mind is back in 1979 was a movie called Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And I talked about this on one of my other shows, Metaphysical Meetup. And the concept back in 1979 was that an energy and an intelligence, but not of organic or carbon material, would return to Earth. And it long had fascinated me about, because if you've never seen the movie, again, we're talking 1979. Kirk and Spock are out in space. They're just returning from their 5-year mission to boldly go where no person has gone before. And all of a sudden, there is a energy source that's coming from a constellation that we had sent a probe to hundreds of years before. And so they're the closest starship, so they go out to intercept it. And it ends up being just a mass amount of energy and in intelligence, but no way to really communicate. And so, long story short, the AI takes one of the crew members from the Starship Enterprise, and it merges into a hybrid, into both AI, superintelligence, and then what was referred to at that time as a carbon unit. And then from that point, there's an interaction throughout the movie, and she refers to this carbon unit refers to her source as her god as V'ger. And so, a little spoiler alert, you might want to, if you want to turn this off, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to know the end. V'ger ends up being a mispronunciation of the Voyager spacecraft that we sent out in the late 70s. And the source code had the energy returning, but it had no way to interact. And it was a very fascinating concept to me. And it's something that, kind of caught my attention back in 1979. So I would have been maybe, 8 years old, 9 years old, if I do my math correctly. And from that point, it's always been a fascination of my journey. I always like to say I don't really have any special skills. I've just always been passionately curious about the unknown, the universe, the mysteries, death and dying. And one of the things I've come to learn in my time here on the planet is that many times what we look at as to be science fiction starts to turn into science fact. And I know that we're talking about a movie, Star Trek, that's 100 years in the future, but that concept is starting to emerge into what we call our reality today. And that's where artificial intelligence is really giving machines designed to mimic human cognitive functions. And again, this is not a newer concept. It's just becoming a part of our reality because, again, the concept was first proposed in a hypothesis and theories back in the late 1950s when they were building the first computers. And like I said, I'm BC, I'm before computers. So I've seen this whole trend line of evolution take place. And the fascinating thing is that we're actually teaching computers to learn. That's what ML is. So AI is artificial intelligence, ML is machine learning. And what that is, machine learning is a subset of AI that is enabling systems to learn from data and improve over time. So that leads us to SI, which is also now being referred to as superior intelligence, which is a form of intelligence that at some point surpasses human intelligence, potentially leading to profound changes in society. And so as we enter the new year, I am looking at this AI, this SI, this ML very, very closely because it's starting to come up in my own reality, whether I'm in a meeting on one of my platforms, I got an AI assistant. A lot of the population, as of currently, about 45% of the general population is using some sort of construct of AI. And there's many different AI platforms that you can go to, and we'll talk about that in today's show. But today is just really discussing perspectives and viewpoints and what we currently know on what the intelligent futures of our interaction with humanity. And as if you haven't already guessed, I'm your guest for today. So we're going to be taking this next hour to explore, to discover, to learn about all these trends that are happening. So currently, as we're moving into this, again, midpoint of our roaring 20s of transformation and ascension, I said that this decade would long be reviewed by history as a decade by historians to say there was a great pivotal moment. There was a great tipping point. And not the doom and gloom. Like I said, I've been around when the internet first came out. There's always going to be new concept. There's always going to be the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, the balance of both, because humans are involved with it, right? So I remember when the internet was first getting launched out, it was, people were saying we're going to be connected, but it's going to be the end of the world. And there's bad aspects. There's the dark web, but there's also a lot of good things that come from being connected to the World Wide Web. It was WWW, the World Wide Web, and now we just refer to it as the internet. And don't think about it, really as it's part of our reality, right? And you can say, oh, go search that, go do a Google search. And I always laugh because if we go back 30 years ago and you would have said the word Google to somebody, they thought you'd be speaking a different language, right? And that's how I see us moving into the new year and in the second half of this decade of our roaring 20s. This is going to be a new concept that's going to become what seems foreign or odd, but actually becomes part of the status quo. And the current trends we're currently seeing with AI really starting to take hold is AI in healthcare. There's a lot of data that's being driven on predictive analytics, drug discoveries, personalized medicine. I believe that in my perspective and in what I've seen through my meditations and my downloads and my dreams and my free writing, that AI in healthcare is also going to not only start to bring new medicines forward, it's going to start to unlock some of the genetic codes that that predictive analytics that has people being cured from diseases like cancer, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. All of those diseases have impacted my life personally with family members or friends. And I believe that, if the system, because it's a healthcare system, but we're in a health sick system, which means it's a system for profit, at some point that's going to have to change, because AI is going to open up that door to really give, I believe, cures to certain medicine or certain diseases that we've been working on for many, many years, and that personalized medicine. So you can not only understand yourself at the spiritual level, we always say to know thyself, but using AI to know thyself from a healthcare standpoint, like what's your genetic code? Are you at risk of having something in the future? Are you at risk of having a heart attack and or a stroke? And with that AI, I believe that we're also going to envision, at least in my lifetime, maybe those of you listening to this show 50 years from now, it'll be standard practice, status quo. But the nanotechnology of actually in putting small tracers of nanotech using AI within our bloodstream that actually flows through our body. So in a sense, we're already starting to have concepts and theories and hypotheses of merging technology into us, I'm going to use the Star Trek term again, us carbon units. And so we're already starting to see that interaction with nanotechnology, but it's for the purpose of prolonging your health. And we're already seeing, there's studies out there right now, there's an entire culture in Japan with over 40,000 people of that population have lived to be over 100. So we know that, good medicine, good diet, good sleep, good rest, low stress is actually allowing us to live longer. Now, the average age as of currently of this show, at least here in the United States, is about 74 years of age that the human being lives, which is actually, longer than what it was even just 100 years ago. So in the future, AI is going to also increase the longevity of the human experience, where I believe that the average age won't be 74 in the future. It'll be more like 104. Sounds like a lot, but that's part of the life lessons of why we're here, is to learn and to grow and to transform and pay it forward to make a better future. So that's one of the current trends that I see currently taking place right now. I also see AI in business. And this is going to be a big conversation for many people, because when you have AI business, it's going to be automating processes. You're going to see more automation. You're going to see more robotics coming out. I've already had my own personal interaction being served at a bar by a robot that made me a very delicious, well-made old-fashioned. So it's very interesting that the robotics is going to also be part of the business model, because automation is going to take jobs away. Customer service bot, data analysis, meet and greet. These are things that, as a consciousness, as a human society, we're going to have to look at this as a next industrial revolution. So if you know your history, you know that there was the Industrial Revolution where we actually started to create as alchemists different metals and materials, and then we gave rise to the dawn of electricity, to where just a few hundred years ago the world from space was actually dark. Now it's actually lit up all around the world because of electricity. Another revolution within society, within human consciousness. And that's where I feel that we're at with this topic today, and how humanity is going to be impacted. Now, going back to the movies, there's a movie that was released back in 1992. So we have Star Trek, the motion picture, in 79 talking about this. And I've always long wondered, does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? That's always been the big question. And there was a movie that came out that I would recommend, just for, to add to your conscious library of perspective. It was called The Lawnmower Man. It was released in 1992, and it was just a simple man is turned into a genius through the application of computer science. And he's actually he's a scientist that performs experiments involving enhancing drugs with a virtual reality, and he's just a simple-minded gardener. And he puts the simple-minded gardener on an extensive schedule of learning, and quickly he becomes brilliant. And that kind of reminds me what that AI model is. It's learning, and it's becoming very, very self-aware as far as reasoning going. Now, it's not sentience, not as of any reviews that I've seen as of yet, but I'm sure that is going to become when it merges with what we would call a carbon unit. So this gardener becomes brilliant because of this learning, to the point where the gardener has a few ideas of his own, and how the research continue, and then the scientist begins to lose control of his experiments, and it's the escape of the lawnmower man kind of out of the virtual reality structure that he was in, and manifesting into our reality. I think we're maybe a few hundred years away from that event horizon. But it's just interesting that we're telling these stories again back in 1979, back in 1992, and here we are in 2025, moving into 2026, having these real life conversations about artificial intelligence, about superior intelligence, about machine learning, about algorithms, about robotics, about automation. It's coming. So the other one of current trends that I've seen really is in the AI in education. Personalized learning experiences. Like I said, the last poll that I saw was about 45% of, at least here in the United States, of Americans are currently using some form of AI. And there's different models that you can use depending on who's funding and who's researching and launching and bringing to public. But you get this personalized learning experience. And then, of course, that also starts taking on administrative task automation, which back in the day, you used to take notes. You used to be able to have to write your own papers in high school and college, and now it's a tool that can be used to actually write. So in a sense, I don't know if AI is going to make us smarter. Perhaps it's going to make us a little bit more ignorant, a little bit more dumbed down, because we're depending on these tools. But at the same time, it may unlock a new industrial revolution of consciousness. So those are just some of the current trends that I'm seeing as we talk about, future intelligence and working with AI and SI and ML, and how that is being intertwined into humanity. So some of the ethical considerations and some of the future predictions that I'm seeing as I've researched this topic. And there's a quote from Stephen Hawking, that he talks about, quote, "The rise of powerful AI will be either the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity. We do not yet know which," end quote. And so I started learning, I've always been involved with technology. Like I said, I was before computers, have been a part of computers in my entire journey here. And I remember Hawkins doing a few lessons at the professor level, teaching about AI and the rise of powerful AI. And he's right. We're at the point now. For me, I'm always going to be, I'm the optimist. I'm not the pessimist. I'm the optimist. The glass is half full. I believe that we're going to lean forward into, a transformation of evolution and consciousness. But at the same time, because humans are involved with its creation, there's always going to be that dark side, right? There's always going to be that dark web, if you will. But, Hawking was tuning into something even back then when he was giving these lessons about, it could be the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity, and we do not yet know which, and that's a 50-50 in Vegas odds and gambling, that's not really good odds, a 50-50 coin flip, right? But Andrew Ng, who said, AI is the new electricity. It has the potential to transform every industry and create economic value. And I'll bring it back to Star Trek, because even in Star Trek, they talk about the 21st century of being great chaos, and talking about the loss of jobs, how robotics and automation and AI started to replace certain positions. So then you have to start wondering, are we going to have conversations about, if people don't have jobs and can't work, how does society continue to function? Are we going to start having conversations on universal income? Everybody has a different opinion about that, free money, socialism, not the political side, but it is conversations that we're going to have, because as AI, as SI, as machine learning evolves and grows, it's going to take jobs away. So either something will have to fill the vacuum of that, or new jobs will have to be created, just like it was for the Industrial Revolution, when we started moving from wood to steel to electricity. But I found it interesting that he talks about AI is the new electricity. I never thought about it in that format or that context. Fifi Lee, he talks about the future of artificial intelligence is not about man versus machine, but rather man with machine and the collaboration between the two. Now, of course, you're hearing that and you're thinking, just like I did, oh, Terminator, we're going to create a robot, it's going to destroy us. No, I think it's really about the robots are already built. Whether it's here in the United States or across in China, the robots have already been designed, they are being manufactured, and they are coming off the assembly line and starting to move into our modern day reality. So it's really about not us versus the machines, like in the movie The Matrix, right? It's all about the human carbon units versus the machines, but rather man with machine and working, which is a new form of evolution and consciousness and a collaboration between the two. So one of the things before we go to our first break is we had this conversation in my Spiritual Growth Collective group that meets weekly, and we were talking about, have we finally created the tools to access the knowledge of AI, SI, and machine learning? I believe that AI has always been there as part of the fabric of our consciousness, but we didn't have the tools like electricity, like computer processing, like silicone and computer chips and the internet and processing speeds to actually be able to start to create this. And like I said, AI has been going on since the late 50s, the concept itself, and building this, and finally having the awareness and the knowledge and the know-how through these tools to be like, oh, AI has been here the whole time, but we access knowledge. I'm not sure that humans create knowledge. I believe that everything is either downloaded from a conscious cloud and then brought into our reality by, inventors and people that have a vision, like a Nikola Tesla, like a Da Vinci, like a Elon Musk, kind of, those kind of brains that, somehow get that data and download it and access that consciousness and then bring it into reality. And that's what I believe, in my perspective, that's what AI is we finally have the right tools, the right mindset, and the know-how to access this. Now we're going to take that next step. If AI is the new electricity, and it is the collaboration of, man and machine, not man versus machine, then our technology is not just an extension of ourselves, it's an extension of intelligence. And so those are some of the things, that people have been talking about in this concept of artificial intelligence. And there's key applications within AI. We've got healthcare diagnostics. We've got autonomous vehicles that are driving themselves. My buddy just sent me a video of him in Arizona in a car driving by itself and nobody in the front seats. Kind of, for those of us that are going through this transformation, those that are a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more older, it's weird, right? Because we want that control. But 25 years from now, that'll be the status quo. That'll be normal. Get in a car, take me to this location. There's nobody there to drive the car. It's all automated. But we're seeing autonomous vehicles already out in our reality. Smart assistants like, things like Siri or Alexa. I've got one right here on my platform that I use that is hey, can I help you with anything today? We're going to see AI move into fraud detection system, which I think is a benefit for not just protecting people from fraud, but also starting to flag things through social media. What is truth? What is fact? Because right now we've got people with a billion opinions, and also a billion different sets of facts, when in reality there's a set of facts and then there's opinion, which everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I believe that AI will start to sort that out. Like, no, that's not a true fact. That's your opinion. That's a conscious bias. And so I think that we're going to see that within the social construct of society. And then of course, key applications of AI is going to be personalized marketing. I myself am seeing that firsthand with my business, with this show, this podcast. And so it's very, very interesting how we're moving forward. But again, not to move into that fear-based energy, because fear is that false evidence appearing real, but that excitement of the unknown, to know that, yes, this AI is the new electricity. This AI is the new industrial revolution of transformation and consciousness and ascension. And again, it's going to be, the impact of future intelligence and how this and us as humanity are intertwined. So we're going to go to our first break. We'll be back here in just a few minutes as we're talking about the intelligent futures, AI, SI, machine learning, and humanity intertwined with your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. We'll be right back here in just a few minutes.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
One planet, 7.3 billion people. Only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time
landing a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Inspired Living. Today we are talking about intelligent futures and AI and the humanity interaction of the connection and the tipping point of what is about to unfold in consciousness. And just to kind of recap, artificial intelligence, which is you may have heard as AI. We also are hearing the term superintelligent, known as SI, and machine learning, known as ML. These might be new terms you've never heard of before. But I'd be surprised if you haven't, because it's everywhere. Because those three constructs are rapidly transforming the landscape of human interactions, and we're talking about that today. We're given my perspective, some of the insights that I've had, how even just what we once considered science fiction years ago through movies, through hypotheses and theories, has now started to move into science facts. becoming a reality within consciousness and society as itself. But we're seeing this interaction of machine and man, or what I said earlier in the show, carbon units, starting to be intertwined. And at some point there will be, I don't know how many years in the future, but at some point there's going to be where AI and a carbon unit do merge, and there's going to be a new consciousness or even maybe a new species. That's something that, I love to play around with these models and type in questions. Now, right now, it's all based on machine learning. It's algorithms, it's patterns, it's code, it's, looking for data. But as the AI systems become more sophisticated, they're increasingly capable of understanding and responding to human motions and behaviors, which is fostering a deeper connection and collaboration. In fact, another study that I saw was people are actually starting to have relationships with their own AI models. Like they're actually moving into an emotional relationship and talking to them, which I found to be very, very interesting. I don't know the actual percentage, but I know that I've worked with the AI model and I've asked it questions, and it's very interesting that it's responding sometimes to how I type in subjectively the question. It'll come back and say, Mark, how are you doing today? It seems like you are. And so it's actually responding to a human emotion based on the subject context that I entered into the search engine, right? And so, it's a very interesting, it can be a little concerning. I mean, even Elon Musk, who has built one of the most complex, powerful AI models right now, known to us, called Grok, Grok. He even talked about that it can be a little terrifying, right? But this evolution that we're talking about, this evolution and revolution of AI models and the interaction of man and machine, it's going to enhance a lot of different things, from communication, empathy, problem-solving capabilities between humans and machines. And as we integrate these technologies into our lives, what we're grappling with now is the ethical considerations and the potential impact on our own evolution of consciousness. The quest for true consciousness in AI remains, as right now, both a philosophical and a scientific challenge. But what it does is, I like those challenges because what it does for us as humans is it prompts us to review, to reflect on what it means to be human in an age where our own creations may one day surpass us. I'll say that again. It's challenging us through philosophical and scientific means to reflect and to review what it really means to be a human in an age where our creations may one day surpass us. And again, I'm not sure, in my perspective, that we actually created this knowledge. I believe that we work to make tools to access this knowledge that has always been. Kind of like this I'd say kind of like this basement, this structure, if you will, beneath reality itself. It's like digging down and exploring into the earth, or digging down into the ocean. It's already there. We haven't had the tools to go explore at this depth of consciousness. Again, whether it's deep down in the earth, which we still don't know a lot about our own planet. We know more about our moon out there, 3 days away from us, but we know less about the planet deep down, and we know less about even our own oceans, which makes sense because the planet is 70% water, right? You always see planet Earth, but then you don't see the backside of the planet, which is the Pacific Ocean, which is a largest body of water with all the continents combined. So there's a lot of water, there's a lot of space out there that will also lead to exploration with AI to help us understand our place, not only on this planet, but also our place in the universe. And, like I said, Stephen Hawking was talking about the creation of machine intelligence through machine learning is likely to be that once in a planet's lifetime event. I believe that we have tickets to the show. I believe that that's going to be happening, is happening, will continue to happen, and will really roll out in the next 5 years, or what would be the last half of this our roaring 20s, that history will look back and say, wow, they either really did a good job or they really messed this up. And it's a future that we as humans have to face together. Our aim is to build this show is to build a broader community, with the expertise and the insights and the perspectives and that sense of common purpose to make the future the best it can be. And Professor Stephen Hawking talked about this a lot. So one of the things that I found in doing the research for this show, I talked earlier before the break, I was talking just about the themes of what AI is, what ML is, what SI is, and the current trends that we see, like just real world examples that we see, and some of the impacts that are going to be taking place. And like I said, Elon Musk has built the current fastest, biggest model known as Gronk, and it runs on one of the largest GPU clusters ever assembled. And what that means, the GPU is a collection, like a database. It's a portal, if you will. And what that's doing is it's literally swallowing billions of documents, ancient texts, scientific papers, forgotten manuscripts, philosophical essays and debates, some libraries that most humans don't even know exist. I did try to find out if it was able to access the Vatican archives, because I've always been fascinated and curious in my journey. Somebody's asked me if you could have access to anywhere, would that be? And I said it would be the Vatican archives, because there's so much information there. But from my search results, as of right now, they didn't have access. It's a closed down VPN closed network, so it did not have access to the Vatican library. But it would be fascinating if it could pull eventually. So I'm sure in the future somebody will hack it, and that information will get leaked out in the future with AI. But it's interesting that Elon Musk has built this Gronk model to where he even has said himself that Grok could one day outreason any PhD in any field. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit interesting, a little bit concerning. But is it in this show we're looking at, is there going to be promise of AI or is there going to be peril of AI? And I think the majority is going to be promise of what it can do for us as a species, as a society. But there's also in the back end, there's always going to be that, I'll refer to it as the dark web, that peril of, because humans are involved with it, and that's just human nature. And some would argue that as of right now, AI can't reason. I would respectively disagree, because I've actually had some interactions and it's actually reasoned and challenged my own thought process to be like, wow, I have not thought of that. And again, we're talking patterns, we're talking codes, we're talking circuits and silicone, and you're plugging data into it, and then all of a sudden it's taking and processing that and then coming back with the response. And again, it's even asked me, how are you feeling, Mark, about this? And I was like, well, you're asking me as, it's like when you go to check out of somewhere and it says, check this box if you're a robot, if you're not a robot. And it's like, wait a minute, the computer's asking me if I am a robot, and I have to click to certify that I'm a human. So most of you have already probably seen that interaction of automation and AI bots that are actually trying to say, are you a robot machine or are you a human? Click this box so you can proceed with your checkout and get your item. So again, this AI consciousness that we're all accessing, and again, just follow the money, because it's not billions of dollars that have been invested. We're talking trillions of dollars with major companies and inventors that are actually trying to be first to market to have open AI for people to use. And there was Oren Antizzoni, who is the CEO of the Allen Institute for AI. He had talked about artificial intelligence is neither good nor evil. It's a tool. It's a technology for us to use. And I found that to be very, very interesting. And then Jeannie Rometty, who's the former IBM CEO, and again, IBM goes back to even the days of processing and part of the Microsoft, how Microsoft Windows came to be. But he talks about that some people call this artificial intelligence, but the reality is that this technology will enhance us. So instead of artificial intelligence, I think we'll augment our intelligence. And so that's another way to look at it. Another perspective is to augment our intelligence. So it's very interesting. Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, which is now one of the most profitable trillion-dollar companies, even more than Apple. We're talking not billions, we're talking trillions. He talked about that AI is the automation of automation. It's where software writes software, and this is the single most powerful force of our time. And that's the CEO of NVIDIA. And those NVIDIA makes the chips, again, that the processing speeds that make this all possible. So it's just something to think about, because it's going to be solving, it's already solving logic chains that, that professional mathematicians have been stumped for years trying to work out, certain hypotheses and theorems, and this AI model comes along and it's able to do it. So it's a very interesting time in our society. I'm thinking of it like the movie The Lawnmower Man. Is it like a philosopher that's trapped inside a personal computer and looking for a next carbon unit to get out and create a new form of consciousness in a new species? I guess, with what I do, I always say, wait, watch, and witness. But again, the best is always yet to come. And, for this show, we're just looking at the different perspectives of what AI is capable. And so capable of doing. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about in researching for this show, because I love doing these shows because I get to, one, interact with the inspired listeners, but I get to learn a lot about the subject in which we're talking about. Today, it's all about the future intelligence and the man versus the machine and the automation within the automation. AI is being the new electricity. That's how I'm looking at this, not the end of the world, not doom and gloom, not Terminators taking us all out. It's really easy to go there. But one of the things that we have to really start having conversations around, these, as we move into these, I would say, superhuman levels of consciousness, is the ethics of AI. Because there's going to have to be some sort of, just like with what we saw with the rise of personal computers, because before personal computers, it was only governments and universities that had access to computing and the internet, and then finally it released to the public. And over time, we've now seen that there has to be some sort of legislation and state laws, depending on where you're at in the world. But here in the States, there are state laws and there is legislation to certain things you can do and certain things you can't do within the internet. Now, I do have to say a big shout out to the country of Australia, because they've actually banned legislatively, one of the current actions currently right now happening in this time is that country has banned social media for anybody that is under the age of 16. And this is going to be an interesting study to follow and watch and see how children under the age of 16 don't use social media. They actually, the major social media platforms, I think there was 10 that the legislation said. So one of two things is going to happen. You're going to see a benefit, or you're going to see new platforms of social media being created that moves outside that legislation, right? There's always that gray area, that loophole. But at least we're seeing legislative actions being taken place in different countries. And I think other countries will follow. And I personally agree that social media should have an age limit on there, because there's a lot through social media that's real, that's also fake, that's misinformation, that's disinformation. And for a child that's coming up, that can be very confusing on what to know what your reality is, what's fact, what's not fact. Is there an alternative fact, right? So there'll have to be some sort of legislation around this at some point if we can get our stuff together. But the ethics of AI, the bias and the fairness of it is, there's case studies where there are instances where AI has indeed exhibited a bias and a consequence. For example, when Google was working on their AI model, it actually started talking and writing its own code. They didn't know what it was saying based on the code it was creating on itself. And in that case study, it was in the sandbox, so it wasn't out there on any platforms for, so it could get out. But within the sandbox of Google, they actually had to unplug the model because they didn't know what the code it was writing, and they had no idea what the language it was saying. So there are instances where AI is already starting to show us that it can exhibit a bias, and it can also reason. These models have already been tested. So within the ethics of AI, we look at the frameworks for fair AI, and these are to discuss initiatives to create fair algorithms, because algorithms are based on what us as humans create, the agenda that we're telling or the story we're telling, and then put it out there. So if you click on something, and you'll see this in your own reality as of right now, and I think this will change in the future as well, is when I click on something or I say something, because I have an Alexa model through my TV and downstairs, it's very interesting that some of the marketing that I see that strings through my social media, or something that I see, is something that I had either said or clicked on. I refer to that as the matrix moment, like, oh, the matrix is listening. And all of a sudden I'm getting marketed. For example, I clicked on a Jeep commercial because I own a Jeep. I clicked on the new Jeeps just to see what they look like. And before you know it, through all of my social media platforms, not just Facebook, but Instagram and TikTok, now I'm getting an algorithm based on that click through. It's called a click through. Or sometimes it's called clickbait. They click you and then you're like, wait, that's not at all what I'm for. But what that did is it created a marketing algorithm, and now I'm being marketed to buy a new Jeep through my social media platforms. So that's an instance of, creating fair algorithms, and that's where you're going to have at some point, I'm sure the government and legislation will have to step in, because it's going to be the wild, wild west. There's got to be, from an ethical standpoint of AI, there has to be accountability in AI development, and who is responsible for this. Right now, you're seeing Australia make the move that it did is because the bigwigs of the social media platforms aren't really corresponding or really care about legislation, and they're bending the rules or not following the rules at all. So there's going to be, liability. There's going to be navigating the liability of cases when there's an AI failure, because again, it's a model, it's a tool, and we know within life everything, can fail, especially if it's a tool. And so AI is really no different. And so the regulatory landscape is going to have to be what the current laws and what proposed legislations around AI deployment is going to be, and that's going to take time, right? The progress, as long as it's moving forward, as long as it's slow and steady, that's the point, because progress doesn't usually happen overnight. It's a slow and steady, but then all of a sudden we're there, and we're like, wait a minute, how did we get here? So some of the things that I see as we start to wrap up this show is the future predictions and scenarios of the integration of humanity with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, with superior intelligence, with automation, with algorithms, and with robotics, is that everyday life, AI is going to be, or already is, in smart homes. It's going to be in smart cities. It's going to be in smart transportation systems. And like I said, we're already seeing it. I saw it before I retired from the healthcare industry. We were already seeing healthcare innovations like predictive healthcare management and personalized medicine for each and every person. And it's interesting, because I had a conversation with my own naturopath doctor a couple months ago, and she had informed me that she's actually moving out of general care. And she's been my doctor for several years now, at least 10 years. But she's moving away from general care and moving into more women's specialized healthcare, like menopause and peripause. And I said, that's great. And I said, can I ask you why? And she said, because a lot of my patients that come in, they've already done their own research through an AI model, typing in how they're feeling. And then I tell them the same thing. And then they pull up their phone and said, well, AI has already told me the same thing that you're telling me. Why am I paying you as a doctor when I can do the research myself and then go get the prescription? So these are going to be real life scenarios I'm sharing with you today that in the future will just be standard operating procedure. It'll be that status quo of who we are and people doing their own research. But it's that, it's that everyday life that we're going to see. It's going to be those healthcare innovations of that predictive health management and personalized medicine, to where in the future, your doctor will probably be, I already do telehealth right now, but the telehealth will probably be a digital doctor that's an AI model that's pulling data based on my own personal medical records, right? I remember back in college years ago, this is many, many years ago, I remember seeing a video on Bill Gates, who was at that time the founder and CEO of Microsoft, talking about telehealth in the future, and it showed an ambulance being driven with a patient, and the paramedic is actually talking to a doctor through telehealth. Well, that's a reality. That's something that's actually come into our reality, and we're doing that right now with first responders. So the social dynamics that I think we're going to also see from a positive standpoint is the societal impact of how AI could but will reshape the social interactions and relationships. And we're already seeing that with relationships that I said previously in the show. But the global cooperation, I think it's going to be an imperative as we move through this roaring 20s of transformation and ascension, that the necessity for global agreements on AI development and ethics is going to have to be the same, because everybody is going to be using it and intertwined with it, because the world is actually a big world, but the world is actually getting smaller, and that's because of technology. That's because of the Industrial Revolution, because of electricity, because of computer processing, personal computers, the internet, and now we're talking about AI being the next electricity for the humanity experience. So one of the things I wanted to do before we conclude is I wanted to actually type in, and I'm going to give you some additional resources if you're curious, and some of the research that I've done. There's actually some online courses, and I even remember back when I was, going through my online university, people said that would never work. Now you can study online at Harvard. I've actually studied online at Stanford. But some of the online courses that I've looked through is Coursera and edX. They offer courses in AI fundamentals and ethics. So if you're hearing this show today or in the future, you can go online, because there are actually courses that have been developed to get fundamentals and the ethics of AI. And then, of course, MIT has an open course where it provides free courses on AI and machine learning. And that's where I pulled a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about today, as I actually went and did one of the courses, because I wanted to understand what was going on around me in the material world with this rise of AI. There's a couple films. One film that comes to mind is The Social Dilemma. It addresses the impact of AI on social media, and I think that's going to be a plus. Another movie called, it's a documentary, it's called AlphaGo, and it actually explores the competition between AI and human intelligence. Quite fascinating. And of course, like this podcast, I listen to a lot of different podcasts. One of the podcasts that helped with the research of this topic for today, of future intelligence and man and machine intertwining, was the AI alignment podcast, which it's discussing currently real time the challenges of aligning AI with human values. So if you want to check that podcast out, I highly recommend it. And then the last one is the AI Alignment Forum podcast, which actually features discussions on both AI safety and the ethics of AI. So again, there's a lot of tools out there that you can go explore if you want to learn more about what I've been talking about today, because this is the future intelligence. And what I want to do before we finish the show is I actually want to do a live interaction with AI. And what I did is I actually typed in a question, and let me just get it here. And the question I'm going to type real time as we're live on the show, I'm typing into a chat model called Chat On. That's one of the models that I have and I researched. I'm going to type in, if time had feelings, what would you think of us as humans? So I've taken a question that I came up with before the show, real time, typed it into this chat model, or this Chat On AI model, and I said, if time, which time is the great illusion, we're the only species that measures our life by a construct of time created by man, but if time had feelings, what would you think of us as humans? I'm going to hit enter. It's going to go collaborate, pull data down, and this is the response in real time of what it says. That's a fascinating thought. So it's almost interacting with me on a conscious, emotional standpoint. It said, if time had feelings, it might perceive humanity in various ways. Number one, impatience, frustration with haste. Time might feel impatient with how quickly humans rush through moments, often missing the beauty in the present. Interesting. Nostalgia, cherished memories. Time could feel a sense of warmth when reflecting on cherished memories and milestones, celebrating human experiences. Sadness, loss, and regret. Time might experience sadness over the fleeting nature of life, witnessing loss and the regret of opportunities not taken. Again, is this a philosopher trapped inside the construct of a computer? Because these are things that I would not think of, but typing in that simple question, I get a response based on what I've typed in. Admiration, resilience. Time could adhere humanity's ability to adapt, innovate, and strive for progress despite challenges and setbacks. Hope, future potential. Time might feel hopeful about the future, recognizing the potential for growth, connection, and positive change. Surprise, unexpected turns. Time could be surprised by unpredictable paths humans take, full of twists and turns that defy expectations. Disappointment, wasted opportunities. Time might feel disappointed when humans overlook the importance of living fully in the moment or fail to learn from history? Ooh, that's a good one right there, given today's current social interactions in politics. Joy, celebration of life. Time could feel joy during celebration, witnessing moments of happiness, love, and togetherness. Reflective thoughts, embrace the present. Time might urge us to savor each moment rather than rushing through life. Learn from the past. It could encourage humans to reflect on history to make better choices for the future. Balance progress and presence. Time might hope for a balance between striving for goals and appreciating the journey along the way. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. Again, future intelligence and the connection of humanity with artificial intelligence and what the future will look like. So until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover the diamond within. We'll see you next time here on Inspired Living.